Hey Maya, welcome to the His and Her Money
Hello,
Show.
Maya.
Hey, Talent. Hey, Ty. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
We are glad to have you on because
Yes.
you know what? You're a successful entrepreneur, and we have a lot of people that are aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, and we know that hearing the story of how people have made it to the top of their particular industry is always inspirational. Me personally, I love hearing entrepreneurial journeys and stories and the ups and downs and highs and lows. And so that's why we're glad that you agreed to come on and share a bit of your story with everyone on today. So, for those who may not know who you are, can you just take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody and let them know what you're all about?
Yeah, perfect. So my name is Maya Elious, and like Talent mentioned, I am a successful entrepreneur. It's so funny to hear people say that because when you just live this life every day, it just seems normal to you. So for somebody to look at you and be like, "Oh, you're a success," it's really interesting. But currently, I am a personal branding strategist, and what I do is I work with coaches and consultants and help them put their business online so they can scale their business and reach more people in the online space. A lot of coaches and consultants now are kind of working one on one, or they're having to meet with people in person, or they're only making money if they're doing in person workshops or speaking on a stage. And so, my goal is to help people make a deeper impact and to really just expand their influence by reaching and touching more people online and creating passive income products. So that's what I do now. And I do that through coaching and speaking in my own workshops and online courses. And I really, really love what I do. So
So tell us, how did you get started? Tell us, how did your entrepreneurial journey begin?
yeah, so my entrepreneurial journey began in 2008 when I was creating Myspace pages for people. And it's really interesting because I've always really loved the internet growing up. I used to make these cute little web pages. I used to be in these chat rooms, which is totally unsafe because I was doing that in elementary and middle school. But I was just so fascinated with the internet and just knowing that I could connect with people all over the world. And when I got my first Myspace page in high school, I learned how to customize it. And when I was 18, I had moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and went to a community college there. And somebody asked me if I knew how to create custom MySpace pages and then offered me $50 to create one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can make money doing something that I'm already spending hours on doing for fun. So that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was, and I didn't really set out to be an entrepreneur. I was just like, wow, let's see how much money I can make to do things that I love. I thought it was almost like a sham to get paid to do something that you're already doing, but I was like, let's just see if I can get away with this. And here I am almost 10 years later, still, making money doing what I love.
Wow. Now, when you first got into the real meat and potatoes of your journey to being an entrepreneur, were there some obstacles that kind of jumped in your way right from the start that tried to take you off track? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I don't think there were obstacles early on just because I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. So I think I am really fortunate because I started so young. I didn't rely on entrepreneurship to be my main income. It was something that was really fun. It was kind of like a side hustle for people that they have a main income from their job and they're just doing something for fun. I think it became an obstacle when I did decide, okay, I'm going to do this for real. And it was like, I have to decide, who do I want my audience to be? What do I want my main offers to be? When I had to treat it like a real business instead of just a fun hobby that I got paid to do, that's when there were obstacles. And I think the main obstacles were just being really clear and sure about what I wanted my business to look like and making sure that I was attracting the right people and charging the right prices.
What's your advice to people who have business, but they are currently treating it as a side thing, and maybe they don't even realize it because they do have their regular income and they're comfortable with that and doing this on the side. And sometimes when you have it as a side thing, you don't put the full-time entrepreneur effort into it and it never becomes what it could. Talk about how you got to the place in your life where the thing that was the side thing, you decided to make it the full thing.
Right. For me, honestly, I think it just all comes down to purpose and impact. It's like what do you want to do with this? Are you just doing this for money, or are you thinking about the person that you can potentially help? It was interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my clients yesterday who is a pastor and a Christian counselor, and she was invited to speak at a conference that would be broadcasted to women in prisons. And she was like, I never really considered the depth of my impact. And she was like, now I know I have to take this seriously. And when you think about the depth of your impact and who you're really helping and legacies that you're able to create because of your work, that's when you start to get more serious. You're like, okay, I can't really play around with this anymore because lives depend on me following through with my own business.
Yeah, that's good. So usually an entrepreneurial, sometimes they go through a lot of stages of different ideas, and before they really find that one idea that really sticks. So tell us about your process. Did you have a bunch of ideas at first? And then how did you find the one that really stuck?
Yeah. Oh man. I think that's kind of honestly the fun part about entrepreneurship. I don't know how many people think it's fun for them because I think we all just want to see like, okay, this is success within the first 3 months. But it was like years of trial and error, years of just playing around. Like I did graphic design. So I was designing logos and business cards. I was designing everything that I could make in Photoshop, anything that I could make in WordPress, anything that I could put together on the internet, I was doing. And then I realized I had a focus. But then I was also doing photography because I was like, ooh, I can do photography and kind of do all of the visuals. And that was interesting. And then I had like an online magazine where I was shooting photography at nightlife events. Like I was doing the absolute most. But it just kind of showed me how easy it was to learn a new skill if I wanted to go after it. But then it also showed me like I'm really good at one particular thing and I don't need to go after everything. So I think it's good to test out everything so you can figure out what really just makes you happy. I know it sounds like really cliche, but it's like we all have the ability to make money doing whatever we want. Everything is learnable. But what is it that truly like what do we enjoy so much that we're willing to be doing it 10 years from now? And I think that's what I had to think about. Like, am I just doing this thing that is going to burn me out in 5 months, or am I doing something that is meaningful to me and I'm willing to do it every single day for the rest of my life?
Building on that question, I think that a lot of times, even after you find the one, if you're really like an entrepreneur, once you get the one thing, you still have that a little bit of scatterbrain because inside that one thing, you can take it in 5 different directions. And sometimes it's hard to focus on keeping the main thing for your business. How have you been able to navigate that?
It is hard. And I think that's where good community and, having a business coach or having a business mentor is really important. I think regardless of your industry, whether you're in fitness or you're in accounting, you're in finance, you're in, business, branding, whatever industry you're in, it's really important to have some type of business mentor or business coach invest in that because people are able to see things in you that you're not able to see in yourself. And it's really important for somebody to be able to look at you and say, I think you're most valuable in this area. Because a lot of times we think about ideas that we think are great ideas and we think they're going to be fun, but we really need to be implementing ideas that are going to be valuable to the person that we want to serve, because that is what business is all about. How can we provide a solution? How can we provide value? And it's not just about what is a good idea that we can implement. So I think having good community, people that know what they're talking about, to be able to look at all of your ideas and say, hey, I think that you would be best in this.
So if you were able to rewind the clock and restart your business endeavors, what would you do differently?
So many things. A lot of times I'm like, I wonder how rich I would be had I known 10 years ago what I knew now. I think definitely probably like investing in a course earlier on, because I think that definitely has helped shaped my mind of how I do business. Because when I was starting out, I was essentially just a freelancer. So learning the business of being a designer definitely changed a lot for me. And I think also being intentional about my circle and probably even like dropping out of college earlier, because I dropped out of college to work for myself full time, but I think I would have done it probably 2 years earlier to really dedicate myself to my business.
The journey to entrepreneurial success has a bunch of highs and a bunch of lows. In those low moments in this 10-year journey that you've been on, how did you push your way through to get to the other side?
I think prayer, and community for sure, and having a community of people that can pray for you. It's interesting because I think there's like, I think about like my mom and my grandma who pray for me all the time. And I'm like, I don't even know what successes I've had in my life as a result of like the prayer that they have had over my life. And I think that's just been really important. I think without just having good people in your life that can uplift you, without having good people in your life that can be a light to you, I don't really know personally where I would be. So I think that's why community is so important. I don't think that we're meant to do life on our own, because there's moments in our life where we just need somebody to give us an encouraging word.
Additionally, I think there's two camps when it comes to when you find, entrepreneur business gurus. There's team no sleep, and then team sleep is super important. Like, you're crazy if you're not getting the proper amount of sleep. The proper amount of sleep makes you a better entrepreneur. You've been in this game for a while. You might have tested both methods out. How did you find balance in that area from when you're an entrepreneur and you're building something that you love and that you're passionate about? It's real easy to just spend so much time pouring into it, especially in the building phases of it. Talk about the balance of, pouring all your energy into it versus having a life and doing other things and still finding balance and all that.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was just talking about that the other day, how I hope that in 2018 we can get rid of this hustle mentality where we feel like we can't sleep in order to succeed, because that's not really how it works. I know personally I need to sleep in order to succeed. But I do think that there are seasons where you're just like, I'm going to go hard for the next, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I'm going to like be isolated from the world. I'm not going to get as much sleep as I would. I'm going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and do this. I'm going to go to bed at midnight. But I think there's seasons for that. And it's really important that you don't do it to the extent that you're not valuable in your business anymore. You have to make sure that every move you're making, it's providing value to your business. So if me sleeping is valuable to my business, I'm going to sleep. If me sleeping is not valuable to my business, I'm going to stay up a few extra hours and make sure that I'm doing what I'm doing. So you need to always make sure that you're going back to the intent, because people are like, oh, if I stay up and work an extra 4 hours, I'm going to be able to be so much more valuable. I'm going to make so much more money. But it's like, are you really though? What would it look like if you weren't doing that? So you just need to make sure that you are always just measuring the results of the effort you're putting in.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
What do you want for your family? It's time to make a decision. Taking care of your financial well-being while building trust with your spouse doesn't have to be tough, and learning how to do it won't cost you a fortune. Tala and Ty McNeely, the creators of His and Her Money, present to you Power Couples University. Imagine if you reduce financial stress and take control of your life. Come be equipped with the tools for money management, wealth building, relationship wellness, and entrepreneurship. Get access to online courses, live Q&A sessions with Tala and Ty McNeely, a private accountability group, and expert masterclass sessions from the world's smartest money and entrepreneurship experts. Don't wait, it's time to make a decision. Power Couples University. Visit powercouplesuniversity.com for more details. And now, back to the show.
So, what has been the biggest victory to date for your business?
Ooh, I think the biggest victory has been launching my agency, because I think I've just really always have had a passion for doing design for my clients. And I've shifted a couple of times where, of course, when I started, I was doing Myspace and I was doing web design and branding. And then I stopped that and I started coaching and just doing strategy, because I felt like a lot of my clients were investing in design, but they had no idea how to build an actual business strategy. So that way people were going to the website or people were visiting their social media. And so I started teaching, but I finally built a team that I felt comfortable enough that could help me do the design and strategy for my clients. And that's really just always been my dream. How can I teach my clients what they need to know to make money, but then also be the person that helps them with their vision and creates their visuals and sets up their strategy and all of that for them. So that's definitely been the most successful thing and the most enjoyable thing for me.
Love that. So most entrepreneurs, they set benchmarks for themselves. They say, well, I want to make 6 figures in 1 year, and then once they achieve that, there's another benchmark. Tell us about the first time that you actually succeeded your first benchmark, and how did that feel?
Oh man, it kind of felt like not real. I think my first benchmark was, I think I made it when I was 23. I'm like, I want to make six figures by the time I'm 25. Um, and that was cool. But then I realized in order to make six figures, I had to spend more money. So it like wasn't that great, because a lot of times we think about just revenue instead of profit. And I didn't have that mindset initially. But I do remember when I made like almost $7,000 in a month, and I was like, wow, this is so much. I mean, I was burnt out by the end of the month, but I was so excited. And then some other benchmarks were when I was making just as much money from coaching and strategy as I was in design. That felt really good, because to me, it kind of validated me as an expert instead of just a freelance designer. So that was awesome. And then hitting like my first five figures or selling my first $500 course, I was like, wow, I'm like really doing this thing. And it just feels really good. And the moment you hit that mark, you're like, okay, I have to do this again to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Like you immediately, well, I immediately like, I was excited, but I doubted myself. Like, okay, is this real? Like, was it just luck? Or was it because of my strategy? And I think by consistently hitting these marks, I proved to myself that my strategy actually worked.
Awesome. Now, what has this entrepreneurial journey taught you about yourself that you didn't realize previously?
I think it's taught me that I have way more impact than I really knew, and that what I do goes so much more beyond the surface level of like building a website or helping somebody with strategy. It's really allowed me to see how I can take somebody else further in their own purpose by what I'm doing. And like what I'm really passionate about, and like my very specific mission now is helping 1,000 women build an online business that can impact 1,000 women. Because I see that there's so many different industries that I have zero expertise in. Like I'm terrible with finances. I'm not great with fitness. I'm not great with health and wellness. Like I know what I need to know for myself, but I think about all the other women that need to have better finances, that need to have a better understanding of themselves and their identity, that need to build their marriage or build a relationship. And knowing that I can help somebody build something that allows other women to be healed in different industries that I don't have an expertise in, that really shows me that what I'm doing is important, and that this entrepreneurship thing isn't just about like a six-figure benchmark goal. It's about what type of legacy am I creating, and how many lives am I able to change as a result of the work that I do?
Love that. Love that. So, what has been the best piece of advice that you have received for your business thus far?
Ooh, best piece of advice. Um, there's been so much over the years. I think as a designer, one of the first things was to not price by hour, but to price by value. I think that definitely shifted a lot for me, because I think people are like, let me charge by how many workbooks, or let me charge by how many hours I sit on the call with you. But it's really not about that. It's about what is the value that I'm providing? What's the shift or the transformation that I'm making to my client? And how much does that really cost? How much are they really, truly willing to invest in that? I think that was really important, because number one, it allowed me to feel comfortable with charging more, and it really just showed me how valuable I really was. And then I think the other great piece of advice was for me to start envisioning the people that I'm helping, and for me to envision what it would look like if I didn't put in the work. And I think those two things have really helped me.
You spoke earlier about how when you were in moments where it wasn't a high moment, it may have been a low moment, you depended on personal prayer and the prayer of others. So I want to talk about community a little bit. Sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of an anomaly in your circle, because the traditional way of working is to go work for somebody else and do that for 30, 35 years and retire. So sometimes when you are trying to strike out on your own, you don't necessarily have people that get it. Did you experience that? And what's your advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs, but other people are kind of saying, just stick with what you got. You got something good. You got a government job. You should just stick with that. Talk about that.
Oh yeah, that government job talk. I think I've definitely had that talk from my parents. I've never had a full-time like corporate job or anything like that just because I started so young. But I've definitely had, especially like my dad, because my parents, came to America from another country, and it was because of education. It was because my dad graduated college. He attended universities. He graduated top of his class, and he got an excellent job. So that was what he saw as success, because he saw that in his father and his grandfather. So I've had my dad telling me, like, go to college, get a good job, be successful that way. And it wasn't so much about like you won't be successful as an entrepreneur, but it was just like the only path to success really is through college unless you are the exception. And I think it was just really important for me to be around other creatives and just really search for people online or see who's doing the same thing on campus when I was in college, and just seeking other people that looked like me or who were excited about the same things as I was. So I think people are going to give you advice based on their own experience, and that's fine. And it's not something to take personally, even though that is hard. But then you also have to think about like, hey, I have a different vision than this person, and I need to be in community with people who have a similar vision as I do.
So, what are some of your daily habits that you've incorporated into your life that you can say has made you successful?
Daily habits. I'm still working on that. Like, I just wrote out a new morning routine. I'm like, if I wake up before 7:30, I'm successful. um, it's really hard to say, honestly. I don't know. And I think sometimes like when you just are, like you get so accustomed to doing you that it doesn't really seem like a habit where it's like, I'm a disciplined person now. It's just like, this is just what I do so naturally. I will say though, like about a year or a year and a half ago, like I started going to the gym more consistently because I felt like if I was disciplined with my body, I would probably be more disciplined in my mind. So just even things that aren't directly tied to business, but just finding ways where I could just be more disciplined as a person. I think really personal development is the best investment as a business owner, because who I am is going to affect how I do things for my business and for my clients and for my team.
Great, great response. If there was one book only that every entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur should read, what would that book be?
Man, that is a great question. You know, it's hard to say again because when I think about a book, I don't think about a business book because, again, I don't think it comes down to knowing the best business strategies. I think it comes down to knowing who you are and how to operate in the best version of yourself. And so if I were to choose a book, it would be something around personal development. It would be around mindset or psychology. I love reading books by psychologists and books that reference scripture. So let's see. I don't know. This was the one question that I did read, and I was like, I don't have an answer for them. One book that I've been really into now, and I'm actually making my dad read it, and we're gonna have like little book report call-ins with each other, is The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And that book really has just helped me to have more faith in my actions and helped me to just think differently about how I approach things and just help me believe that whatever I think can become reality. And sometimes I think I would think about something and then be like, not 100% sure about it. But now I really believe everything that I put my hand on is going to be successful. And it's really helped me become more confident in myself. So that's the book I'm going to recommend.
What are 3 success tips that every entrepreneur should know?
3 success tips. I think number 1, community is important. I really can't harp on community enough because really who you hang around, it makes such a huge difference. Community is just so important. Iron sharpens iron. Like you cannot hang around people that aren't doing what you want to do and then expect to be doing what you want to do. Like it just doesn't work like that. I think also relationship building, which kind of goes with community, but I think building relationships and being really intentional about that is something that you have to think about. Like, who can I take further? Who can take me further? And how can we grow together? And just thinking about like what people and resources do you need in your life in order to succeed? I think that's definitely something to be intentional about. And then again, personal development. So just all of the things that I've already been saying, like, who do I need to become in order to reach the level of success that I have envisioned? I think one of the most important things that I did in 2016, right before I launched my agency, was I took this manifestation course by this lady named Denise Duffield Thomas. And one of the activities in the course was to visualize yourself years from now. So I envisioned myself 5 years from now, and I pictured what I looked like. I pictured what my body looked like, what my skin was like, what my hair was like, what the weather was like, where I lived, who my team was. And when I woke up, I just felt so excited, and I saw my agency and the vision and all of that. And I was like, what did that person in my vision do 5 years ago in order to reach that level? So now I think about, am I doing the things aligned with the successful version of myself 5 years from now? And I think having that clear vision is so important to be successful.
Please tell everybody more about your website, your services, and how they can connect with you.
You guys can connect with me in my Facebook community at mayaelious.com/community, and I am all over at Maya Elious.
Maya, this has been awesome.
Yes.
Your story has been incredible and super inspirational, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share with our audience today. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.